Rather, for sure, there is no doubt about it whatsoever. I'm using all these words for emphasis because there's la, and there's two noons at the end. And then Allah says, لَيُنْبَذَنَّ, he will definitely be thrown. And this is to throw something that has no value to you. This was the word used to describe Bani Israel when they threw Tawrat behind their back. نَبَذَ فَرِيقٌ مِّنَ الَّذِينَ أُوتُوا الْكِتَابِ كِتَابَ اللَّهَ وَرَاءَ ظُهُورِهِمْ. They threw it behind their back because it had no value to them. This person thinks he has all the value in the world because of what? His wealth. And by the way, one of the things I didn't mention, you know why he talks to people that way? Because he's got money. He thinks he can get away with it. Who's going to talk back to me? I could talk to my employee like that. I'm the major donor at the Islamic Center. Who's going to talk back to me? Without my contributions, the school won't survive. I can talk however I want. This donation is also, it's not only a blank check, it's a blank check for my tongue. Right? This is what he assumes. So now, at the end, he is valueless. He is thrown like trash. Fil hutama, in al-hutama. In this most despicable place. الثاني معناه لا ينبذن في اللام جواب القسم. Allah, the linguists say that لام لا ينبذن is the response to an oath. In other words, Allah is saying, I swear he will be thrown. Not only definitely he'll be thrown, Allah swears on top of that because of the lam. The other thing is, لا ينبذن can be, some qira'at actually recited as following. لا ينبذن. Now what did you hear different? لا ينبذن. It made it longer, right? That alif made it appear. 2. Meaning, huwa wa maluhu. Him and his money will be thrown. You loved it so much, go. Live with it. You never wanted to let go of it, right? Okay, you won't let go of it ever. You can go get crushed with it together. Subhanallah. Huwa wa maluhu. So, and by the way, fil hutama, by using the word fi, يقتضي أنه موضع له قعر عميق جدا كالبئر. By using the word fi, he will be thrown in it. It implies that this is a place that is very, very deep. That he will be thrown way down in a deep ditch. لَيُنْبَذَنَّ بِضَمِّ الذَّالِ. It's also been recited لَيُنْبَذُنَّ. So there are 3 recitations. لَيُنْبَذَنَّ, لَيُنْبَذَنَّ, and then لَيُنْبَذُنَّ هُوَ وَأَنصَارُهُ. Him and the people who helped him become this way. So the 3 interpretations. He himself, him and his wealth, and then him and his entire posse, his entire social circle. وَسُمِّيَتْ النَّارْ هَا هُنَا بِالْحُطَمَةِ. And the fire was called hutama here. لِأَنَّهَا تَحْتِمَ الْعِظَامِ. Because it crushes the bones. حَتَّى تَصِلَ إِلَى الْقُلُوبِ. Until it reaches the hearts. It's called hutama because it crushes bones and reaches to the hearts. How do we know? There's far more fuel, far more people working to build a large fire. There's a comparison. They have more resources, they have a bigger well, they have a lot of oil, they made a huge bonfire. Can be compared. But the fire of Allah, by using that phrase, this is a fire that can never ever be compared to any fire. The only thing that can be said is, this is the fire especially designed by Allah. So by using the word Allah, He made it incomparable, which makes the last statement even more appropriate. What can possibly give you a clue? Because this is the fire of Allah. Nothing is able to give you even the slightest idea of what kind of fire this is. Narullah. Then he says, Al-Muqada. Muqada is an ism maf'ul, as opposed to an ism fa'il. Muqida, ism fa'il. Muqada, ism maf'ul, right? So it comes from awqada yuqidu iqad. And this, first of all, Muqada means that which is lit. That which is lit. Mentioning right next to Allah implies Allah Himself lit it. That's what it, because it's mentioned, right? So the fire of Allah that has been lit, implying that has been lit by Allah Azza wa Jal. That's number 1. Number 2, here Allah is highlighting subhanahu wa ta'ala the act itself, meaning the lighting itself instead of Himself. He's been highlighted in the word Allah, but then the fire has been highlighted in the ism maf'ul. He didn't say Narullah al-Muqid, because Muqid would have referred to Allah, the fire of Allah who lit it. But no, the fire of Allah that has been lit, then you just imagine how badly it's been lit. So it's focusing your attention on the fire again. Then Ibn al-Faris says, this word muqada iqad, kalimatun tadullu ala ishti'al an-nar. It is used, it illustrates the sparks of a fire. A loud flame that has a lot of sparks coming out of it. Amma qawluhu ta'ala, نار الله فالإضافة للتفخيم أي هي نار لا كسائر النيران. This association of nar with Allah is for magnifying it, so you know that this is a fire, لا كسائر النيران, that cannot be like any fire, any other fires that exist. الموقدة التي لا تخمد أبدا. Muqada implies a fire that will never ever go down. أو الموقدة بأمره أو بقدرته. This is awesome. Muqada implies two things. One, it's lit by Allah's command. Allah commanded it and it got lit. أو بقدرته, meaning Allah created it in a way that it remains that way. Which is why an ism is used as opposed to a fi'l. نار الله التي أوقدت. Right? التي توقد, a verb would have been used. But al-muqada implies it remains lit. It stays that way, it doesn't go down. You know, if you know anything about lighting a fire, what happens eventually? It dies out. By using muqada, Allah made it an endless fire, subhanallah. التي تطلع على الأفئدة. The one that rises up against, or makes its way, climbs painstakingly. Tala'a in Arabic is used for the rising of the sun, which is a smooth rising. But ittala'a is used for climbing a mountain, which is a painful step by step. This fire is taking one step inside you, then the next step, then it grabs onto something and makes its way like a climber does. Ittala'a. Allati tattali'u also implies it does so over and over again. If it was the past tense ittala'at, then it would have happened in one shot. Tattali'u, it does so, then goes back, then does so again, then goes back and does so again. This istimrar fil fi'l, right? This continuity in the act. So, and by the way, why the hearts? Because the greed, the humazah, the lumazah, the assumption that mal will last forever. Where did all of these crimes take place originally? In the heart. The heart that was overwhelmed against someone else or against their own greed, which wasn't even qalb, it was fu'ad. And now that the heart is being burned, it's literally inflamed. So we don't use qalb, we use fu'ad here. Because fu'ad implies a heart that is engulfed in flames. Lahmun fa'id means a piece of flesh that is surrounded by fire. That's what it literally means. And now it's not even fu'ad figuratively, which it is. It's also fu'ad literally. So, التي تطلع على الأفئدة. فاعلم أنه طلع الجبل واطلع عليه. That you can climb a mountain with ease or with difficulty إذا علاه, when someone goes all the way over it. ثم في تفسير الآية وجهان. Then when we studied the tafsir of this ayah, we found two things. الأول النار تدخل في أجوافهم, that the fire will enter into their limbs حتى تصل إلى صدورهم, until it enters and reaches their chests. وهم تطلع على أفئدتهم, then it will make its way above their hearts. ولا شيء في بدن الإنسان ألطف من الفؤاد, and there is nothing in the body of the human being that is more subtle and hidden than the fu'ad. It is protected by a rib cage. It's a cavity. It's one of the strongest bones in the body. It protects this thing. By the way, Allah created the human being in this way. The most important faculties are the most protected, right? The heart is protected and the mind is protected with the strongest bones in the by the body. But the lips aren't protected, right? Because they can get you in trouble. They don't need protection. They actually need punishment sometimes, right? So that which leads you into more sin, right? And the places of iman, the things that will save you, are protected, but the places that land you into trouble are left open. Subhanallah. But anyway, one of the meanings of fu'ad is the innermost heart. That should also be noted. Linguistically, the innermost, the core of the heart. وَلَا أَشَدُّ تَأَلُّمًا مِنْهُ بِأَذًا يُمَاسُهُ. Then this is the place that causes the most or feels the most pain. فَكَيْفَ إِذَا طَلَعَتْ نَارُ جَهَنَّمْ وَاسْتَوْلَتْ عَلَيْهِ. How can it be that the fire of hell will come and make its way above him? He says, وَإِذَا لَحْتَرَقَ, if the fire actually consumed the heart, he would die. That's why Allah Azza wa Jalla says it climbs on it, but it doesn't consume it. Meaning it crushes the bones, it crushes the flesh, but it doesn't crush the heart. The heart feels the pain, it retreats, it makes it feel the pain again, it retreats, it doesn't consume the heart, subhanallah. فَلِذَلِكَ يَقُولُ سُبْحَانَهُ وَتَعَالَى ثُمَّ لَا يَمُوتُ فِيهَا وَلَا يَحْيَا. That's why he won't die in it and he won't live, because if the heart is gone, the life is gone. So it will keep going back and forth against the heart. One more important comment about this ayah. وَيَجُوزْ أَنْ يُخَصَّ الْأَفْئِدَةِ لِأَنَّهَا مَوَاطِنُ الْكُفْرِ. And it's possible that Allah highlighted أفئدة, the fu'ad, because those are the stations of disbelief. وَالْعَقَائِدِ الْفَاسِدَةِ, and of corrupt beliefs. وَالنِّيَّاتِ الْخَبِيثَةِ, and of filthy intentions. Now, إِنَّهَا عَلَيْهِمْ مُؤْصَدَةً. Now let's look at the word innaha alayhim, simple language. It is especially upon them. The alayhim is earlier. The normal sentence structure is innaha muqsadatun alayhim. But alayhim is placed earlier. This is called taqdeem, right? Taqdeem al-jar wa majroor, right? So it's brought earlier. What that implies is these are especially the people who will get, in addition, this mu'sada that will be cast upon them. This is a special punishment for these people. So it's not for everyone in hellfire, it's for these people in particular. Now, awsada is used, or isad, is used for a barn where animals are locked or secured. You know how you have a high enough wall that the animal can't climb out? That is actually a musad. And to put something, also it means to put something upside down. Like you have, food, and you put a plate over it, a lid over it, so none of the heat escapes, for example, in a pot, etc. This is also called isad, to cover or to lid something. And this is why Allah says, كُلَّمَا أَرَادُوا أَنْ يَخْرُجُوا مِنْهَا أُعِيدُوا فِيهَا. Every time they try to get out of it, they are placed back in it because it's lidded on top. It will be lidded over them, mu'sada. وَلَمْ يَقُلْ مُطْبَقَةً. And another word for placing a lid on top is mutbaqa, but he didn't use that, he used mu'sada instead. لِأَنَّ الْمُؤْصَدَ هِيَ الْأَبْوَابَ الْمُغْلَقَةِ. This is amazing, because mu'sada implies that which has doors that are closed. So it's closed, but there are actually doors there too. There are doors. So why? But if you say mutbaqa, there are no doors. It's just a lid with no openings. But mu'sada has a closing, but it has doors in it, which leaves a possibility for what? Of escape, right? So let's see why. أنه لو شاء يجعل ذلك الموضع بحيث لا يكون له الباب لكنه بالباب. He could have mentioned something that doesn't have doors, but he mentioned a word that does have doors. يذكرهم الخروج, mentioning a way of escape for them. فيزيد في حسرتهم, because it's so high up above them, and we'll learn that in the next ayah. They keep looking at the doors, and it increases in their hasra, in their regret. If there's no hope, you give up hope, but you see the door, and the false hope adds to the pain. The false hope adds to the pain. So Allah adds to the psychological torment by mentioning mu'sada. وَلَمْ يَقُلْ مُؤْصَدَةٌ عَلَيْهِمْ. And He didn't mention مُؤْصَدَةٌ عَلَيْهِمْ. He said عَلَيْهِمْ مُؤْصَدَةٌ يُفِيدُ أَنَّ الْمَقْصُودَ أَوَّلًا كَوْنُهُمْ بِهَذِهِ الْحَالَةِ. And one of the benefits of that is to make sure they understand that they will be in that state. Instead of highlighting the mu'sada, He highlighted their state first. Finally, the last ayah, فِي عَمَدٍ مُمَدَّدَةٍ. In amad is translated as columns. The word mad in Arabic is to stretch. Maddada, tamdeed, this is bab al-taf'eel. From it you get the ism maf'ul, mumaddad. And this is the mumaddada, it's feminine because it's the adjective of a broken plural, jama' taksir. Amud is the singular, and then amad. So, amadin mumaddada, right? Outstretched columns. Madda, to stretch. Maddada, to stretch to far extremes. To stretch as far as the stretching can go. Al-amud kulla mustatilin min khashab aw hadid. Amud is used for any beam, any column that is made with wood or iron. وَهُوَ أَصْلٌ لِلْبِنَاءِ. And it's the essence of a construction, meaning the whole thing stands upon it. Amudul bayt, as the Arab would say, يُقال amudul bayt. They will say the beam of the house, لِلَّذِي يَقُومُ بِهِ الْبَيْتِ. That which the whole house stands on, meaning if this collapses, the whole thing collapses. وَفِي بِمَعْنَى الباء أي إنها عليهم مؤسدة بعمد مدت عليها. The fi in the beginning of the ayah is in the meaning of ba also. Not only are they in it, they are being contained in it by means of these beams. Meaning these beams are made of metal, but they are on this intense heat, so there's burning metal. Now if they were just regular beams, you could try to what? You could try to climb. But they are first of all, they're extremely long, and on top of that, they're in extreme heat. So you just trying to touch them would even add to your pain. So finally tying the beginning of this surah to its ending, and we conclude inshallah. The surah began with one word for destruction, that was wail. That was the beginning of the surah. And the surah concludes fully explaining what this wail is. What is this? How bad can it get? And Allah Azza wa Jal mentions this prison scenario where people are being thrown and they look up and there are these high columns, and way on the ceiling, what do they see? They see doors, but they can never reach those doors because these columns they're not a means of comfort. They can't even lean on them, right? They're a means of adding to their pain. May Allah Azza wa Jal protect us from this wrath. And then, of course, finally, in the beginning of the surah, Allah Azza wa Jal did use the word kul, which means no one should feel exempt from this crime, that we should be afraid of this crime.